wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers. The Transformers.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to oh my goodness, he is huge. Man, I gotta tell you, he's a biggin'. Oh boy. Anyway, guys, as this is Transformers Reviews, we're going to be taking a look at a Transformer. And guess what, guys? This is one that maybe not everybody knows about, but I gotta tell you, I am super stoked to have him because I had the original release of this mold, but let's just kind of break down why Skyshadow is so awesome. Because originally this mold was released as Cybertron Jetfire. And I had Cybertron Jetfire, but he was just kind of a dark olive green color. And he didn't really have all that many splashes. So whenever they re-released this as Skyshadow, oh my goodness, they just put him to shame. And some of the details on this oh gosh, guys, I'm sorry. I was not expecting to be this excited, but he is so cool. Just because, like I said, you look at the old Jetfire, and there's just not this level of detail. I mean, you look at some of the small stuff, you can obviously notice the pattern on the wings, but even small little details like the trim of gold here, around the engines, even on the back engines. And the darker color scheme for this, as opposed to the dark green that Jetfire was, Skyshadow's mix of maroons and like charcoal gray and this military like khaki color, just all the colors, they just work really well. And the funny thing is there's no real world plane that's like this. It takes inspiration from a few different ones, but you can definitely tell that there's a lot of Cybertronian twist with this mold. And I mean, he's really cool on the bottom. I got to take that sticker off. I hadn't done that, but I mean, he's just so fun because he's so big, bulky, and a tough figure overall. So one of the things that I really loved about it was it's not a true camo pattern, but if you kind of notice on the nose and on the wings, even though they're all different color, and even back here a little bit, it's kind of like to me it kind of screams like a camo pattern on this guy, with just the way it's arranged and some of this stuff. Like I said, it's not your traditional military camo, but whatever you want to call the striping in the certain areas, that is really cool. And I think it just adds to the, like I said before, it just adds to the overall look of it. But he does come with these missile launchers. Now, a lot of these figures on eBay are missing the guns. There's people selling just the gun bits, but very few people selling the the missiles that go with them. But as far as being really kind of just clip-on guns, they're not bad. I mean, they still fire pretty well. However, if you didn't want him to have the gun sticking off, even without that, still as just a plain mode, it still retains how kind of cool it is. Now, due to the way that this figure is designed, the wings do sag a little bit, which I wish they were a little bit more firm, but you know what? That's just a small, minor nitpick. Now, the one thing that this figure was known for as Jetfire and retains is if you have the batteries in here while it is in jet mode, you press back here on this back little turbine. Makes that noise, which sounds like a condor, or a mech condor, whatever. Anyway, so whenever you would have the cyber key feature for these figures, to use his, it would actually flip this tail section up to where you would have something, let me go ahead and reorient the camera, guys, where you would have something like this, basically. And I mean, as far as overall bulk and everything that he has, this kind of makes him look more like a starfighter, in my opinion, like this, as opposed to an airplane. I mean, obviously you can still tell it is, but there's a lot of sci-fi features going on here which could make him pass as like a little fighter. Now, the cyber key feature to activate it, the guy that I bought this from, he's sending me the cyber key, but I didn't want to wait to do this, so I will go ahead and use this to kind of show you the feature. Notice how his cannon is here. It's down and the barrels are back in. But when you go to activate the cyber key feature, just gotta press up on this lever inside. You notice that it just pops it up and the cannons slide out. And while it's not too of a great feature, it's okay. But once you have that done, the sound effects where you press on those buttons, it changes. Like he's flying down and attacking somebody, like, you know, but whatever. Hey, you know what? I like it. I do. Alrighty, well, we're going to go ahead and also take a look at how he stacks up against old Slug Slinger here. And even though this is Pterosaur, they have reused his mold in both the Combiner Wars and Power of the Primes line, so that kind of gives you an idea of how he would scale to, say, modern day deluxes. And what a sick paint job he has, I gotta say, guys. I went back and forth because I've always kind of had this love-hate, more hate relationship with like the Cybertron figures. But for some reason, this reuse of the Jetfire mold just, it always kind of spoke to me whenever I saw it way back in, what was that, 2005, 6, whatever that was. Now, funny little thing, if you saw the first part of this review, you know that I didn't have the cyber key. Well, in between the time that I shot that and when I shot this, the cyber key actually arrived, which is still the same old Surf? It's the Earth cyber key that Jetfire had. So, just to show you that it does work. It's meant for robot and vehicle mode, but you go ahead and plug the key in like this. So much easier than trying to use a screwdriver. But again, the sound effects remain the same now that it's flipped forward. I say that. I lied to you. Guess what? It has a powered up cannon sound. Listen to it. Okay, so apparently it's been a while since I had this figure. Look at that face. I mean that head. Just look at all the paint on that thing. Man, I did not realize that way back in 6 that they were putting this level of detail into guys. Now, one thing that you probably saw in vehicle mode, but I didn't bring it out, you know, because I brought out different trim areas like the gold, but just to have this one solid booster that's gold as opposed to the other boosters which are cast in the same kind of, you know, metallic khaki, or well, it's a brown. It's not the actual, because that's something weird. This is actually molded plastic. This is actually painted. Ooh, I like that. That's really cool. But then again, this is just plastic back here. But it's, wow, I'm just noticing stuff for the first time. Anyway, other than that, even down to his legs, they do have a little bit of paint, helps break it up and everything. And then this is one of the cool things. Like I said, even though this striping is not camo, it kind of reminds me of that. So I think that's really cool. And one of the cool things is they could have just had this little cockpit here, which I think, you know, they could have gotten away with it, but had these little pop-out missile pods. Because whenever you transform him, it plugs into something that makes these things kind of pop out. And just that little touch, just small stuff like that, I think is what helps this figure look so good. Woo! Now that is one thing about Skyshadow, is because of the backpack back here, he is extremely back heavy. So normally, from what I remember on Jetfire, when you have the cannons kind of sticking out like this, it does help to have a little bit of that weight. Because without the guns, even though he has these back heel supports, I can feel the backpack whenever he doesn't have the guns, it kind of pulls back on a little bit. So this kind of helps distribute that weight a little bit better. He is having a little issue standing forward, even though I say that. But you can see right now he's pretty balanced. Now there is his range of like flexibility and posability is limited somewhat because he is bulky and because the arm joints being the way that they are. Basically, when they were in vehicle mode, they were slid back here. If you could see it, they were slid back here. So his arm is basically just limited to this kind of motion right here. It's just kind of an out and in sort of deal. Now, a way to get around that is you can see he obviously has the flexibility at his elbows. Is what you can do is you can kind of pull this back a little bit and you can actually lower the wings down. So if you go ahead and do that, you can go ahead and pull this back up. And if you wanted to, that does allow his arms to go a little bit more forward than they would, and it does kind of grant you a little bit more flexibility if you want to do like a side shot or what have you. So I mean, it's you know, it's open to you if you want to do that. You just have to make sure that the wings and all that stuff, just how they, you know, they're really impacted by this backpack. And anyway, other than that, plus I mean, if you wanted to pose him like he was flying around, you know, then you could do that because he's got his wings at that angle. So it's just a little kind of a little fun little fact that I happened to notice about this guy. And I don't know what Skysshadow's issue is. He just does not want to hold his right gun. That's just weird, dude. But the funny thing about this figure, as one of the last things I'll mention, is he actually does have a little bit of wrist articulation. And on, did I call him Jetfire? It's Skyshadow, what am I thinking? Anyway, same difference. But he does have it, and it is a little stiff, but he does have that, just that little bit of ankle rotate. You guys understand me, you know what I mean. Other than that, guys, there's really nothing else to show you about Jetfire other than to kind of show you how he scales in robot mode. So here he is with Slag. Here he is with Swoop. Just kind of give you a little bit of an idea there. And he's maybe a little too far in frame, but we'll go ahead and see if you can kind of see just the Beachcomber comes up to right just above the top of his knee. So anyway, that hopefully that gives you an idea of scale of how these guys look together and everything. So alrighty, guys, other than that, there's, like I said, there's really nothing else to show you. So this has been the review of Transformers Cybertron Skyshadow. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and until next time, we'll see you in another review.